came back from the HR retreat in the mountains with no more or less motivation than they had started with before the trip. It was an expensive one, but something that the department was entitled to, Barbara thought. She decided that instead of small bonuses, that the team would appreciate, well, some team building. Barbara doesn't spend much time or energy outside the office, so she doesn't realize that no one gives a shit about the team building and spirit pumping that a corporate department retreat would provide. She thinks everyone should be putting in as many hours in the office as she, because what else could possibly be more interesting than human resources for a mid-sized insurance company outside of Pittsburgh? Her team really hates her, but no one comes to work with anything but apathy, so the hate doesn't really translate well. There's no office drama like in the movies. There's no office humor like on TV. It's just an office with an especially despised HR department and Barbara, the director, at the helm, promoting really boring, unimportant, waste of time, paper-pushing stuff. Barbara knew better. She wasn't kidding herself. She was just playing a role she felt she needed to play. It gave her meaning and definition. It was the identity that she couldn't develop on her own, so it was constructed for her by the job and nothing else. The role she really liked was the one I made her play. I felt a little bad about it now, but it makes a good story, and I think I did change her life a little. It started when her employees, her team, bought her some language lessons as a Christmas gift. She didn't get around to making an appointment until June. I'm a graduate student getting my PhD in economics, and I teach Spanish on the side until my fellowship kicks in next year. I came to her apartment a few minutes early. She melted a bit when she saw me, but she disguised it by acting surprised to see me. But my first impression of her was sterling, 50-ish and hefty, football helmet haircut that aged her by at least 10 years, overly made up, probably hiding a nasty complexion, support hose, and hadn't been fucked in years, or probably ever. She couldn't make eye contact. She was blushing and started to perspire when we sat down at her glass dinette table. It's filthy when someone heavy with a half-inch of bad makeup starts to sweat. I could smell her perfume mixed with her nervous sweat, and in there somewhere were some pheromones. That I could sense easily. It's usually the first place I stop. Oh, Barbara, you're going to be in for a good one, but I'll make you beg first. She was totally incompetent at learning languages, which was all the better so I could weaken her artificially constructed patina of superlady HR director. Hers was harder to penetrate than others. She was totally alone, and her employees couldn't stand her. But she just didn't care. We talked more about her job than we did learning Spanish, because I like people who trust me, so I listened to them. I acted interested in human resources, though I really couldn't understand, even after hours and hours of discussion, what the hell the whole purpose was. It seems to me like it was a black hole in corporations, but I've never worked in one, so I can't judge. All I knew now was that HR was her life, and she had nothing else. But she liked me. She really liked me. After that first afternoon, she signed up for weekly classes for the rest of the year. Each Tuesday night at 7 p.m., I would ring a buzzer outside her apartment. I could hear her footsteps even on the heavy carpeting inside, and she would wait a moment or two before opening the door. It was funny that she didn't realize that I could hear her breathing on the other side of the door. She was catching her breath. I could almost feel her heart beating through the door. She would swat the cat away and welcome me in. By the second lesson, I leaned in to greet her with a traditional Spanish double cheek kiss, which caught her off guard completely. She had a silly smile when she was flirting. She had absolutely no control over herself at some points. She would giggle uncontrollably to the point where tears would start streaming down her pudgy fingers, would rush to contain the black eye makeup gushing down her face, and I would lean back and smile and wink sometimes. One night I brought some wine. I told her it was authentic Rioja from Spain. I bought it at the market down the street, but she didn't seem to know any better. I let her drink most of it while I just nursed one glass. After a glass or two, I knew that she was exactly who I thought she would be. After a few weeks, I noticed things in the apartment started to change. The shades weren't drawn, there were fresh flowers on the table, and the cat box wasn't in the middle of the living room. She was also losing some weight. In the corner of the room, I could see a stack of exercise videos and a rolled-up yoga mat. By the middle of the summer, we started taking our lessons on the patio outside her apartment, leaning our chairs back and looking at the darkening sky, clutching our wine glasses. I noted to her that she was looking thinner. She blushed and said that she was on a heavy-duty diet for health reasons. I said she looks beautiful. Why change? Well, I thought this was a completely over-the-top and contrived comment that she wouldn't buy. But she didn't call me out on it. Instead, she started to cry. She said no one had ever called her beautiful. This is where I wanted to jump off the fucking deck and never come back. But I started this, and I'm gonna finish it with a bang. I took a 2-week break to get my thesis together and get back to see my family in Spain. I vowed to keep the lessons going with Barbara until I absolutely couldn't take anymore. I returned to her apartment, and when she answered the door, I waited for the delay, but she opened the door immediately. She must have starved herself because it looked like she dropped 20 pounds. She went to the tanning booth. Her hair was looser and not all poofed out. She looked relaxed, but I saw she had already opened a bottle of wine. This was definitely going to be a different kind of lesson. Waiting to laugh at the stupid irony. I should be writing pulp instead of studying economics, I thought. It was a stunning dress she had on, truly. I hadn't seen her cleavage before, but someone really dressed her up well in this. While she was still on the porky side and her upper arms dangled like mush, the dress suited her and she knew it. When she turned around to head to the patio, I noticed the dress still had the tag on the back, so my guess about her being dressed by the private shopper was correct. I complimented her. She noted that she just got it on the way home from work. I suggested that we go out for dinner, spend some time out of the apartment, and celebrate my fellowship. She was delighted. I don't think she had ever been on a date, and I wanted her to feel like this was a date. Drinks and tapas, Latin music club, late dinner, more drinks, and a long walk by the river holding large cups of sangria. And she was putty. We returned to her apartment. She said I've tantalized her all summer and that she dressed up for me. This was the moment. It took her months to get the courage and the self-confidence to say those words. It took her months to shed the HR director lady veneer and emerge as a person, a sexual, living, breathing woman. I couldn't go through with it though. I froze and I trembled. I led her to this point and I never had any intention of fucking her. It was mean and cruel and at first, but then I realized that she was changing and improving herself. So I let it continue and I had nothing to lose. But then I excused myself from the apartment, acting embarrassed and confused. I heard glass break as I jogged down the stairs. I turned to go back upstairs, but I knew I shouldn't. I walked around the back of the apartment complex to see if I could catch a glimpse of her one more time. I had a clear view right into the apartment and the patio. She had one arm reaching around her back and the other arm reaching behind her, and I couldn't tell what she was doing at first. It looked like yoga, and then I realized she was trying to unzip the fucking dress. She fussed and she turned and she reversed arms, both arms reaching up to the back and then just one arm, and she tried pulling the dress up over her, but she couldn't get it over her waist. She stomped and she wrangled and she was wiggling and jumping, and the image reminded me of a calf captured in a rodeo. Then she started wriggling violently. Her hair came out of her clip and large unruly wisps stuck to her face. She was getting entirely too worked up over this dress. But then again, I've never had to try to take off a dress with a tiny zipper between my shoulders and no one to help me. Come to think of it, how is she going to get out of that dress? How does any single woman get a dress like that off? Her loneliness was underscored by this desperate scene, and it really made me sad. I stood there in the shadow outside her apartment, feeling very uncomfortable. I can't leave. This is too engrossing to watch. But I can't go up there again, or else she'll know I was watching. There was no movement for a few minutes, and then the lights went out. Maybe she got the dress off. Maybe she just passed out. Thank you.